And this is Zach here.
And
late night recording.
Night recording. Feels like we're always recording late night anyways, so
we're night owls.
We're night owls. Today we got some topics. We brought some stuff to the table. Zach over here is looking at my record collection.
I'm just admiring this cover with all the naked ladies on it.
Yeah.
The Jimi Hendrix cover. What did you say it was?
Electric Ladyland. I think that's my favorite Jimi Hendrix album.
And you said it's from a UK pressing?
I think so, yeah. A banned UK pressing, and it just stuck out to me as like, hell yeah.
It has a bunch of like 60s era looking women on it, all naked. One of them is holding another Jimi Hendrix album.
That's If 6 Was 9. Or Axis Is Bold As Love. That's yeah.
It's a pretty cool one. It's an eye-catching vinyl cover.
Yeah, well, I'm a pretentious asshole, so, I got all my...
Remember how when you started collecting records, I found that one by the band Poison Idea?
Yeah, I got that
said
one.
record collectors are pretentious assholes.
Just based off the name.
That's the name of the vinyl.
I mean, honestly, the thing is with vinyl is that when you start collecting it, like a lot of the times, you'll go for shit but then you'll just start going for shit that just, sounds interesting or, just is eye-catching. Like there's one I got in there called Russian Party. I still have not spun it, but I assume it's Russian party music, and I'm fun.
So much of the vinyl, a part of it is not just the album itself, but the art and how it's presented on the pressing itself or the cover. There's a lot more offered in a vinyl than your typical online musical libraries and whatnot.
Yeah. All right. Well, first things first, we got to acknowledge with terrible sadness, one of the biggest pieces of shit, of the Bush era, Donald Rumsfeld. I think he was the Secretary of Defense. I think under Bush, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
He had been a political player.
He was also under Ford. I think it was Ford.
He had been a political player for some time, because if you recall in that movie Vice,
right,
the movie about Dick Cheney originally somewhat mentored or worked with him in the early days, and that was late 60s, early 70s, I think.
Yeah, and I thought this was important to mention because I've been seeing I've had discussions with friends of mine, just in personal life, and I've seen it online on Twitter a lot too, but this whole thing about what's the decorum around talking about someone who's a piece of shit.
Is he a piece of shit?
Yeah. No,
why?
Because
tell me a little bit about Donald Rumsfeld that makes him so
well,
horrible.
He's one of the architects of the Iraq War. Yeah. That alone. Mm-hmm. That alone, he like I said, I don't know specifically, honestly, about him, to be honest, but all I know is that he was a major player in getting us into Iraq. He was a part of that whole machine with Dick Cheney and whatnot. Oh man, imagine what the day's gonna be like when Dick Cheney dies. The amount of people wanting to dance over his fucking grave, my lord.
This was a presidential administration that I vaguely can recall. We were young during the Bush administration, but I do remember hearing these names despite being in 5th, 6th, 7th grade. During the majority of the Bush administration, the height of it. Rummy, you got Rummy, you got Colin Powell, who nowadays is actually taking a little bit more of a, at least during the Trump administration, he was kind of citing more Democratic.
Yeah, but here's the thing under Trump, is that a lot of these Bush era Republicans under Trump, because Trump is just so fucking ridiculous and out there, they came and fucking started chilling to the neolibs and being like, oh, they're resistance heroes. They're the brave people.
Colin Powell was always a neolib.
Yeah.
He never wasn't a neolib.
Yeah. I know, but I'm just saying, a lot of them get touted as like resistance heroes because they're conservatives who are being like, this isn't the conservative party that I remember.
Well, you know, a famous incident that happened that I don't know how much Donald Rumsfeld was involved in this,
but the Scooter Libby.
Yeah, the Scooter Libby and the leaking of that CIA operative in order to basically get back at her husband, who was a journalist who published some, you know, some articles critical of the Bush administration and their involvement in Iraq. And I believe Donald Rumsfeld, Cheney, Bush's cabinet, played a big role in being like, let's leak this CIA operative's personal info in order to fuck with her husband. Who's
I'm sure he had some part in it. You know, but the honestly, like, but like that's just like establishing like who he is. But like, what I wanted to more talk about is like, you know, I've heard a lot of, you know, talking heads that I follow that, you know, have, you know, talked about this subject, and I have mixed feelings about it because I do understand, like, I feel like death should be respected. Like, that's one of those things where I'm just like, you know, even though, like, when a person dies, like, I believe that a person, when they die, they should be treated, you know,
with dignity.
With dignity, but here's the thing, though. The guy was, like, responsible for fucking deaths abroad. That's case in point. And, you know, it's a little more different than the Rush Limbaugh situation, because Rush Limbaugh was just a conservative talk show, radio show, talk show host. And he was just spouting, obviously racist bullshit and fucking,
he was riling up the white base of the Midwest.
Yeah, basically he's Tucker. He was Tucker back then. You know, he's like what inspired.
He was like a precursor,
a proto.
Like a lot of the online conservative pundits you have these days.
I mean, straight up, the dude went online, and I mean, one of the grossest things that I heard that he had done was that he had like a regular segment where he would cheers on the deaths of people who had died of AIDS. Yeah, this is the caliber of person we're dealing with, right?
So all that. Let's go back to your question. So, does the sins and acts of someone during their life, does that make it okay to be excited about their death, to take pleasure in their death, to revel in their death? I think it is a blurry line. I think jokes, especially if you're a public figure, especially a political figure, where your choices and things you've done have actual serious consequences in the world.
Caused misery.
Yeah. I think, it can't be helped. You're a public figure. This is America. It was just 4th of July. There's a certain amount of freedom of speech that should be applied here. People should be allowed to make their jokes.
Yeah.
People should be allowed to say, oh, ding dong, the witch is dead.
Yeah.
Post a doom meme where it's me in hell looking for Donald Rumsfeld.
Yeah, or the Ghana says goodbye meme, And yeah, I think it's a little different when, like you said, you're an actual policymaker. Like Rush Limbaugh, he was just he was just a radio show host.
I mean, Rush Limbaugh's actions did have direct consequences. He did, because
he was basically just he was just touting all of these, like, racist and just Republican rhetoric at the time. He was the trendsetter for the average Republican, basically. And I don't know. I just I think he's a piece of shit. And personally, am I happy that guy's dead? I mean, like, no.
I mean, I don't really care.
I don't really care, to be honest.
I had forgotten about him until he died.
Yeah, straight up. And the thing is that what I'm most, is with someone like Donald Rumsfeld, it's not like I was counting down the days until he died, but I was more so like, when he did die, I was like, oh yeah, that fucking piece of shit. All right, good. And I know that's fucked up, And people might think that's fucked up, but I honestly feel like, all right, good, fine, you're finally fucking dead.
Well, let me bring up an example of someone that wasn't an American and is objectively, because a lot of times with these political people, representatives in America, like obviously there's going to be people who have a different opinion than us saying, no, this was a great person. Let me give you one that's like pretty cut and dry. You won't find many people in America at least saying, oh, how dare you guys. It was when I remember this when Osama bin Laden, when he died, I was in high school. It was 2010, I was in high school. I do remember seeing a lot of stuff online being like, you know, people reveling in Osama bin Laden's death, you know, taking pleasure in Osama bin Laden's death. And at the time I remember, you know, I was like, okay, I get it, but like I feel like this is where the line I think is. I feel like it's unhealthy for the individual to revel so much in someone's death. Right. You know, be it Osama bin Laden to Rush Limbaugh to Donald Rumsfeld or anybody else in the world, politically or otherwise. I think the jokes are okay. The criticisms, valid criticism of someone's life are okay, but I think you risk poisoning your own mind in some way and poisoning yourself and kind of just becoming a little bit dwelling too much in the negativity of it and, you know, harping too much on the death. I think just could be just a little bit toxic for your own mind state.
Sure,
you know?
Yeah, and like I said, it wasn't like, you know, this wasn't someone I actively thought about, like, you know, like, God, I'd hope he... But, you know, there was a certain... Like, I'll be honest, like, when Trump contracted COVID, I was like, I hope that motherfucker dies. And I was like... And I know that's fucked up, but that guy... I'm gonna be honest. That guy Trump... Hey, hot take. Trump, not a good guy.
If people haven't guessed it, there's a little bit of a political slant on that show.
Sorry. Yeah, Jesus.
If that's not obvious already...
But, you know, but the thing is...
How would you feel if you died and you, in the other world, saw people on planet Earth going, yay, Bosco's dead, ding dong, the witch is dead.
Here's the thing,
how would you feel?
The hypothetical is that I don't think there's anybody who's hoping for me to die. So it's kind of hard to... Because, like, if I had an enemy...
How do you know?
I don't know if I had an enemy who's
someone
that would be
far
creepy.
Off that you've long forgotten about, just waiting, being like, I have Bosco one day, he'll croak.
See, the thing is, I don't think I was that memorable, I guess.
Yeah, never know.
Yeah, but I guess, you know, hypothetically, I guess I would just be happy that I brought joy to someone. You know, because life is miserable. I'd be happy that I brought joy, a little bit of just, oh, nice, for someone.
I just think, you know, just at the end of it, I think there's a fine line, like I said, between making the jokes, you know, making the critiques, and, you know, taking a little bit of pleasure out of someone's death. Between that and then straight up just like basking and reveling in it, I think kind of crosses that line where it's like, that's gross. Give it up. Think about something else. You know, think about the living. Spare that energy for people, for things that are more worthy rather than a dead person who can no longer affect us.
But, okay, but I don't think there's anybody for most of these people who are, like, counting down for the days for them to be dead. But, like, let's talk about more so not the thinking about it, but, like, why, like, is it, like, I know you're like, okay, you know, I just write it, it's literally the day after 4th of July, you know, freedom of speech, like you said. But, I don't know, is it tacky?
It's tacky.
Yeah.
I would say there is a line. A line will get crossed as tacky. Well, let's bring up our personal example about something that happened. Without mentioning names, we were in a private group chat between friends. Yeah. And obviously we have friends who have differing political opinions. And when Rush Limbaugh died, it was the day before my birthday.
Well, wait, context break. Zach and our was it the Instagram group?
Oh yeah, the Instagram.
Yeah, I think it was the Instagram group. He likes to keep the name topical, and it's like a little shtick that he likes to do. He
change it based on like what's going on,
and And I remember I just got the notification that Zach had written "Good riddance, Rush Limbaugh," and I was like, "Yeah, yeah." And here's the thing, though, is that like this is like a private group, like, and like, yeah, I would be like, I was like, I lolled at that for sure, but like, do I think it's wrong? No, because this is just a private group chat between us. We're not putting it out. We're not putting hate out into the world, but we're just like kind of commenting and being honest with each other and being like, yeah, fuck this
I didn't think it was that offensive, but apparently it irked a member or two of this group chat, and they exited the group after
both
this.
of ours.
And what's worse is they, we had made plenty of insensitive jokes before. In fact, after the Kobe Bryant one, which I would argue is way worse.
We won't bring it up.
Way worse. I'm going to go ahead and say after Kobe Bryant died, I changed the group chat name to Kobe's helicopter pilots.
Oh
and that didn't cause a big stir up. That there was no hardcore. There's people in that group, that I'm thinking about. Yeah, there's some Kobe supporters in there, but that one didn't cause as much of a stir up as the Rush Limbaugh thing, which I think is weird. Kobe, I would say,
a beloved person.
Is more beloved, has brought more joy and happiness and positivity into the world, and has a greater positive effect on people than Rush Limbaugh has by miles.
No, yeah, totally.
And my Kobe joke, which I just made as, a joke to just lighten the mood.
Let's be honest.
Didn't cause anybody. Eyelashes were batted. But Rush Limbaugh, political figure.
And if you asked us like personally, we would be like, when the day when Kobe died, that was felt for anybody, even for even people who didn't follow basketball. Like it reverberated. His death reverberated in a positive way.
For sure, more tears fell for Kobe than Rush Limbaugh or Donald Rumsfeld combined.
Yeah. We use humor to make light of situations, whatnot. But, no problems whatsoever, But you make one comment about a giant piece of shit like Rush Limbaugh, and then fucking everyone goes mad.
Well, for the record, I've learned my lesson, and I made no jokes about Donald Rumsfeld. And then you
changed the group's name to No Jokes About Rush Limbaugh.
That was the follow-up. No joking about Rush Limbaugh. Yeah. And since then, I've refrained. I'll make the jokes in my head, quietly, to myself, so as not to upset the delicate sensibilities of those in group chats or the greater world.
Yeah, I don't have personally, just to wrap this up, like, I don't have really a problem with it. Like, I don't put it out there. Like, I might have my own personal feelings, but I'll mostly likely just keep it to myself, and just, the day George Bush dies, I'll be like, well, he was funny, but he was a fucking piece of shit.
Can't wait to see him in hell.
Yeah, can't wait to see him in hell.
Well, like I said, freedom of speech, baby. It was just 4th of July.
Hell yeah,
you want to make your jokes about someone's death, go for it.
Hell yeah, brother.
All right, you want to move on to your piece of news you've brought to the table today?
Yeah, so, in case you haven't noticed, I fucking hate corporations. I hate most of them. I think they encourage wanted destruction, not only in people's lives, but in the environment, the world in general, at large.
Maybe we should change the name of this segment to Bosco's Weekly Corporate Slam Piece.
Yeah. I mean, that's not a bad idea. But yeah, I absolutely, I understand, we're in late stage capitalism, capitalism's a system under which we live in. But the problem is when capitalism starts to affect legislation and governmental action that I find the problem. And, like I've said before with, the tax IRS statements from the ProPublica leak. You know, the thing is that it ultimately comes down to is like, okay, is it legal? Not really, but it's not explicitly said that it's illegal, right? So it's like kind of like a gray area, right? Because I'm sure corruption is illegal, right? Governmental corruption, I'm sure that's illegal, but somehow, we pay certain senators to, you know, basically carry our water for us, you know, and protect our interests. And so Greenpeace UK, and their Unearthed, I guess is they're like a investigative journalism branch, I guess. They UK. Funny enough, I've brought in multiple stories from outside the U.S. reporting, and I think that's kind of it's kind of a damning statement when countries abroad, their journalists, like, you know, their journalists are basically being like, well, America's not fucking doing it, so we're you know, we gotta fucking do it.
Well, so much of American mainstream American media works for the neoliberal machine that we've discussed.
Oh yeah. Totally.
So they don't bring up topics that are damning or might be harmful to the business sector of
and America. The whole discussion revolves around trying to stop any progress being made. They're obstructionists. Anyway, so there was a recent. Basically, they did Greenpeace, the Unearthed thing. UK, yeah. They posed as like a headhunter, and they got a guy who worked for the American Petroleum Institute. See, I got his name.
A headhunter, as in they were seeking like potential employees for some nondescript business.
Right, and like, you know, because they had to kind of like go covert to try to like. Because the video that they got, I recommend all of you to look it up. I showed Zach it maybe a couple days ago. It's like, it's pretty, like, it's all stuff that definitely you would assume that's probably been going on, but just to hear someone say it out loud who's in a position where he knows the inner workings and what's going on, you know, this story reminded me of a movie, Thank You for Smoking, which is, I love that movie. It's a great movie. And it reminded me of like how a lobbyist functions, right? Like, you know, that movie, the one thing is that it gives you somewhat, you know, obviously it's a movie, but it gives you like some, like how, like if a successful lobbyist would work, you know.
That's definitely a movie we'll cover on one of our future
Oh yeah, for sure. That's a good one. So the American Petroleum Institute is like one of these companies that they're basically like kind of like a shadow company to try and give legitimacy to basically run cover for Exxon.
They're an operative group.
Basically, but like
political operative.
Exactly.
Group.
Exactly.
Perhaps a think tank could also describe what they are too.
Yeah, exactly. You know, take for example, so some of the stuff that mentioned in here. One thing I found interesting was, you know, they bring up certain topics like how does he stop any regulations from coming down on Exxon? And, you know, one of the things he said is like when Exxon gets asked, oh, what do you support then to help with climate change? And they'll be like, oh, we support a carbon tax, right? Which is basically a tax on all, you know, usage of gas and whatnot.
Anything that gives off carbon emissions.
Right. But the thing is that a carbon tax is highly unpopular because basically it's a tax on basically everybody and everyday living below the poverty line. And, you know, then you're going to say, oh yeah, we're going to do gas tax Look, I think we definitely need to be doing something for the environment, like drastic changes. I don't know what the answers are, but what I'm talking about is it's interesting how they maneuver through the political system. So basically Exxon gets to go like, oh, we'll support this, but they do that, quote, nobody is going to propose a gas tax on all Americans. And the cynical side of me is like, yeah, we know that. They know that it will never get passed.
Passing something like that in America would be damn near impossible, because the way public political discourse works is the business sector, the industry sector, changes what would be basically a policy that's directed towards them and directed towards taxing them, and then they, through a series of political maneuvering, frame it as, oh, the government's coming after the individual.
Right.
They're coming for the individual. They're going to tax you. They're going to make it harder for you to drive the cars you want to drive, to have the appliances you want, to use the energy you want.
Really, right, but they know it's a non-starter. They use it as like kind of a token gesture towards helping towards global warming and reducing emissions.
Well, they say that's why they say it out front, because the goal of the industry and business sector in politics is to frame regulations or policy that would be aimed at them, and then turn around and be like, oh, everybody needs to do their part. They make it, and like the individuals are responsible. That's why, like, you get all these half-assed ones like the plastic straws, or telling people to take shorter showers. It's changing the responsibility from industry to individual. The burden of responsibility should be on the private sector, business and industry. But they change it to make it look like it's going to be levied against the individual.
But here's the thing, is that it doesn't matter, because they're saying whatever they need to say, right, to appease governmental bodies, so that governmental bodies feels like, see, we got them to support a carbon, you know what I mean? It's a token, like I said. But the craziest thing about this was there was oh yeah, you remember that one part where he's like, oh yeah, did we join shadow groups? Yes. Did we actively argue against science? Yes. It's like, hey, I don't think you should be admitting that. But again, it's under the guise of being headhunted, so this guy's just spilling beans.
Whenever you're admitting that you worked with shadow organizations, I feel like you're basically admitting you're the villain in the story.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I mean, yeah, no hero works with a shadow group. Yeah, you're a piece of shit. So what this comes down to, the biggest thing in my perspective that gets talked about in this story is there's a chemical out there. They call it forever chemicals, but they're really called PFAs. And no, I didn't write the long name of it, but they're called PFAs. You can look it up. But one of the main uses is as a firefighting foam in military installations, right? And the reason why they're called forever chemicals is because what they do is they never break down in the environment. So, forever. Yay. But the biggest problem with these is that when there would actually be fires, or they were doing a drill and they would wash it all away, that would just get right into the water supply. And PFAs were known, name it, cancer, birth defects. It's basically the effects of carcinogens. Mm-hmm. And
when you go into a restaurant, you see that sign that says chemicals are used here, known to the state of California, to produce birth defects and carcinogenic properties, blah, blah, blah.
Right, exactly. And one of the admissions he made that was so damning was, he said, if members of Congress started saying Exxon is poisoning our waterways, the debate is over.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Like, but the thing is that they're trying their hardest to make Exxon is through the API, the American Petroleum Institute, is using that to basically not get out that they were making these PFAs, right? And they want to. And I heard they said it's like, look, it's not like a big part of their business, but it's about an $800 million business. So it's enough to be like, all right, well, what's going on here? You know what I mean? You're not going to just let 800 million, like an $800 million product, just be like, well, we gotta milk this dry a little bit. So they basically wanted to get lobbyists to stop getting the word out that Exxon made it. Right. And then what they did is they lobbied the government for a long-term study on the effects of toxic chemicals in order to stop regulations, because it's like, okay, before they know regulations are coming down, what they'll do is they'll be like, hey, we want to study on this to postpone. Right. The words I wrote down is delay, deny, distract. That is their main objective, right?
When it comes to environmental damage and climate
change. Right. On behalf of, any company, really, but in particular, Exxon Mobil.
Uh-huh.
And, and Biden earmarked it in a bill. I don't know if it went through, but it said in the article it did. But, it was about a $75 million study into the research of and so it's like they got what they wanted, right? They bought some more time being able to use these PFAs, right? And what's really interesting, on kind of like a side note, is that within the company, there was more pressure to have more ethical people on the board of directors and have more, it came from their shareholders, right? Basically like activist hedge funds and, and they pushed for new board members. And the thing is that Exxon tried to heavily go against that, but they the shareholders ended up getting somebody who they felt was a little bit more ethical onto the boards, which I thought was interesting. Right. So a little bit of like an internal struggle there, right? So the thing that made me fucking mad was when he started talking about, okay, so how do we get the specific senators? How do we get them to help us out? So what they do is they target senators who are up for re-election, right? And, the names included Mark Kelly, Kristen Sinema, both from Arizona. Mm-hmm. Who'd have known? John Tester. There's some other names, but the biggest name they mentioned was Joe Manchin. And Joe Manchin, if you don't know, he's, his name has been thrown around a lot recently in the Biden administration, and basically he's a right-leaning Democrat, basically, but the argument that they make is that a full-on lefty Democrat couldn't win in West Virginia, and that someone like Joe Manchin could. Someone who's a little bit more conservative, but so the Democrats find him useful because it's like, oh, we get to mark that as a D, that seat as a D. But the thing is that Joe Manchin gets to play this game where he's buddy with conservatives and big business. And one of the things this guy said was, he was like, oh yeah, he wasn't shy about it. Joe Manchin, he had an open door policy, and we were basically able to get with him and whenever we wanted. And and right now, Joe Biden trying to get that infrastructure deal passed, and a very smaller bill, right? Because Joe Biden wants to use the corporate tax rate to help pay for this infrastructure.
Okay.
Right, and it helps with making more green jobs, whatnot. There's some good stuff in this bill. But the thing is that he's basically he gets to be the obstructionist because there's a 50-50 split in the Senate.
And a state where, a little bit of a side tangent, but a state that has a long history of being exploited, of being exploited by industry. West Virginia has a long history
with the coal miners,
exploited by the mining industry, and has a long history of either workers addiction. Not being protected by the industry they're working for, and the industry openly damaging the environment in that state without little push.
They did that mountaintop removal shit there, yeah.
So
is Appalachia in West Virginia?
Yeah, part of it.
Yeah. Okay. So I just the whole thing with this argument is that with this whole article, I just find it feels like the more things you hear from scientists is like, we need to do something now. They're like, we're past like, these small little things. We need to do big measures, big changes to the infrastructure. And one of the interesting things he mentioned is like, we have the discussion around why we can't change our system to electric, we can't change to electric cars within the 10 years, right? And they have the discussion about how they can't do that within 10 years. And that basically delays, any changes from happening. It delays it. You just go like, oh, well, we can't change the electric grid to not run on gas, but the thing is that we gotta fucking try. We gotta fucking try, and if we want to live in a livable, on a livable planet. And I just find it's so fucking infuriating that basically companies get to just make a mockery of democracy.
So, if I'm getting this right, the gist of this story is basically, through this expose piece Greenpeace UK did, they got this former Exxon Mobil executive or director of some kind to basically admit that they gamed the political system through a series of lobbyists to impede and delay any type of climate change policies that would hinder their business, while at the same time presenting a public-facing front. You refer to it as like a token of saying, we support
the carbon tax,
carbon tax and green energy, and we are here to all help work towards a more sustainable future that's less damaging to our environment. And if I remember correctly in the video, the guy says, you present a face to the public, but behind closed doors the opposite is true.
Right.
So,
and one of the things he said in that same video, there's like a bunch of clips of him from this interview. Well, it was more like a fake job interview. And one of the things he said that I thought was interesting is that he said, in order to get something really done, we need some brave politicians, and we know that doesn't exist.
Yeah. So basically, they rely on the political system and exploit it, knowing that senators, congressmen that may be up for re-election, that they can exploit these politicians by threatening their seats in order to get them basically to work in the interest of the petroleum industry. So, nothing about this story is surprising. Like, a lot of it is like done. And this has been done. This has been done throughout history. This was done by the tobacco industry. You mentioned thank you for smoking. This has been done. The tobacco industry for years lobbied and did everything they could to stop, censor, and impede any scientific release telling you that,
hey, pregnant woman, do you want to smoke?
That smoking was bad for you. So it's basically the same thing the tobacco industry did in the mid 20th century, just now with environmental and climate change related issues.
This is how crazy it was back then. You bring up tobacco. They were trying to sell cigarettes as an empowering feminist thing to smoke.
They also sold it as an anxiety reliever.
Yeah. Remember, I don't know if this is bullshit, but I think there's a story about Teddy Roosevelt where his doctor told him, like, as a young kid that he needed to smoke cigarettes.
Well, again, with, I think a lot of parallels can be drawn between the tobacco industry, how they acted in the mid-20th century, to how petroleum and various energy industries act now, in that, like, even back then, they did try and present, like, they put a lot of it on the consumer. They put a lot of it on the individual, saying, it's the individual's responsibility, not our responsibility. Deflect the responsibility, like you said, delay, deflect, and also to try and put forward this nice public face, but being like, we put filters on our cigarettes, which pretty much did nothing. But we put filters on our cigarettes. We give money to cancer research, whatever it may be.
Yes.
They did the same thing, but behind closed doors, they're in support of none of it that they say publicly.
Oh, of course not.
So it's basically just industry doing what they do, to exploit the American political system, deflect responsibility to the individual and the consumer, and behind closed doors work against scientific studies, work against public interest, essentially.
Right. And I don't know, I find this disturbing as someone who really doesn't want the environment to be destroyed. I think most of us don't. And the thing that's crazy is that these corporations basically twist the narrative to the point where average, conservative, more conservative leaning folk, they basically defend the destruction. I remember my uncle when talking about when Biden said that he was going to stop was it the Keystone Pipeline? I forget which pipeline. It was one of them, but it was like I think it was in Alaska. I think it was the Keystone, and I remember my uncle said, he's like, hey, the pipeline up there in Alaska, the animals, they huddle around it for warmth. Huh? That's, what I mean? Like, like they, and that is so asinine. That argument is just fucking asinine as hell. And like I said, and it's just, the thing is that I think I don't know what's going to happen, but I think there's going to be a massive environmental event that's going to force us to be like, see, we should have been paying attention, and then it'll be too late. That's the fear that keeps me up at night. And stories like these only shine more light on that.
All right, you ready to move on to the shame segment?
Yeah. So, shame. Shame on you. Shame.
All right. Okay. The people will be shaming this week centers around a developing story. It's a story that's caught a lot of attention online, but it's about Faze Clan of Bosco. If you remember, I was a part of Faze Clan when I was a pro Call of Duty player back in my younger days, now retired. I used to quickscope Bosco, both online and in person, daily. So the Faze Clan, most well known for their Call of Duty, where they got their start, producing Call of Duty videos and being a competitive Call of Duty team. Nowadays they have a lot of people working under them, most of them influencers. They live at the Faze Mansion, where they drive luxury cars and show off flashy jewelry, Bugatti, expensive clothing in their videos, and they have a large fan base, mostly young men, young boys, so most recently there was this cryptocurrency scam that they participated in. In fact, as of recording this, 4 members of Faze Clan are accused of being party to what they would call a pump and dump scheme.
Sounds hot.
One of them was dropped. Faze K was dropped entirely from Faze Clan, while 3 other members have been suspended as of right now. So, for those who don't know what a pump and dump is, since cryptocurrency has gained so much popularity, just to explain real quick what a pump and dump is. Basically, with cryptocurrencies, these altcoins, they basically...
You still holding Doge?
I'm still holding Doge. But basically, they will... what they call a whale. Someone will have a large amount of coins. Multiple people will have a large amount of coins. Try and push the coin heavily online.
That's how a lot of these like shit coins start.
Yeah.
Right. It's like it's only like a couple people holding a majority of the coins.
The power of the meme and the power of the algorithm, as we've discussed, plays a big role in the pump and dump. The rocket emojis, the moon emojis. Mm-hmm. Oh, to the moon. The coin in this case,
everything gets co-opted.
Is actually hilarious in its irony. Yeah. It's called Save the Kids.
Save the Children.
And they actually presented it as a charitable endeavor, in that you get to buy Save the Kids, so you're helping the kids. Which kids they are, we don't know. Is the money going to UNICEF? Is it going to children in America? We don't know who these kids are.
It's going to the kids of these streamers.
But, so they advertise this altcoin called Save the Kids as this new upcoming new Doge, whatever.
Well,
Bitcoin, baby.
Well, what I remember from from what I've seen, and there's a video done by what's the guy's name again, Zach?
Oh, CoffeeZilla. Shout out to him. He did a great piece of investigative
man,
journalism.
I love it when someone does a deep dive into shit like that.
He investigated it himself and was able to get some of the creators on the phone. One
of the things that he said was that that when they get sold, there's like a 3% transaction fee where like one goes to charity, and then like one goes to, like, they had it split up where like, oh, one goes to the company, one goes, anyway, it doesn't matter. But they were like saying, oh yeah, we're just making transaction fee money, right? Go on.
Yeah, so for the record, Faze, the organization itself, denies any knowledge of this.
Of course.
We don't know how much...
Yeah, Exxon denied any knowledge of the fucking PFAs and fucking, a lot of shit, alright?
Faze and Exxon Mobil, two rotten fruit of the same branch.
Yeah, exactly.
But, recently there's been this rumor that online in the past couple of days, I think a streamer that goes by the name Destiny was saying that, Faze is definitely aware of what their influencers are doing. So the project was also, even to give it more of a tinge of irony, it was touted these influencers, which included Faze K and some of his cohorts, Jarvis, Niken, and Tico, well as one of the most annoying YouTubers of all time. One of the biggest hacks on the internet.
Oh yeah,
and will be remembered throughout history as a massive hack.
Yeah, I mean, he was also a part of. There was that one scam where I think like Jake Paul was in on it.
Involved in other scams.
No, he has, and the one I'm thinking of is there was like this loot box thing, right, where it was called like mysterybox.com. And it was basically like the prizes that they had promised. So like one was like a Lamborghini, like, and basically mostly everyone got like
a Lamborghini in a loot box.
Yeah.
You have to be insane to believe that.
Yeah, exactly. They're like,
or a kid. Or a 15-year-old boy who wants a Lamborghini.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, well, these kids, they buy shit through microtransactions online all the time. So why wouldn't they buy, an online generated loot box? And they would make these videos where they're like, oh no, I got new AirPods. No way. Oh.
A lot of these videos of these influencers that are involved in this scam revolve around flaunting wealth, flaunting luxury, cars,
selling
clothing,
a dream.
jewelry.
Everyone's selling a dream.
A lot of their bit revolves. It's less about the video games these days and more about the personality advertising,
Kids
essentially flaunting.
They don't even 360 no scope like they used to.
I know. What happened to the good old days? 360 no scoping some noobs on Afghan.
While let the bodies hit the floor, or some song by Linkin Park. Any of them, you'll take.
Do you remember when I hit that quad headshot on High Rise?
No.
You were there. You were one of the victims. That's why it's selective memory.
Shut up. Anyway, go on.
So basically, one thing they flaunted about this coin, to add on to the irony of this whole fuckery, was that they flaunted that this coin had anti-pump and dump measures. In the fact that they claimed that the coin could only be sold at, like, you could only sell about 20% of your current...
Every 24 hours.
Yeah, every 24 hours. When CoffeeZilla went and did his investigation, he found that when this coin was made public, last minute they switched it to something like every 20 minutes.
No, it was every minute.
Every minute.
It was every minute.
Every minute you could sell.
Every minute.
So basically you could just sell off as quick as you wanted to. Right. And basically when this coin went public, that's exactly what these guys did. They sold almost immediate 1/10 of a cent to almost a full cent, where it was then dumped by Kay and Rice Gum and these other influencers.
And the way they found this out is because of these wallets being, they're available online
through the blockchain.
Whatever.
We're not super
Hello,
computer
fellow
savvy.
kids.
This is tech stuff.
Yeah, but
we never took a computer science class in our life.
No. I just look at the computer and hope things happen. That's why this podcast sounds terrible. It's because I'm learning myself how to do it. All right. But it's just so shitty. It's so shitty. The fact that their wallets are online and people can see them, it made it easier for the CoffeeZilla guy.
It was clear to see that this coin was filled with whales waiting to dump. Every countermeasure that they promised when you bought this coin, it was literally a trap. It was like a trap ready to gather the masses of, let's be honest, young men buying up this coin because they like Faze Clan. And Faze Clan tells them that this is the going to the moon, birder, and then, they get him in the room and literally pull the metaphorical rug out from under them.
Hey, fly me to the moon.
The original whales and promoters of the coin, who got the coins early and for free, I believe, got made out big, and everybody else was left holding the metaphorical bag. Losing money because now the coin is less than 1/10 of a penny, which I don't even think could have bought you an ice cream in 1835. So
no, but it can buy you a really filthy hooker.
It says one thing I read online was that Kay dumped almost all tokens immediately after they started. The coin went live, and a lot of these people, Rice Gum included, have since deleted any tweets about any coin. So one thing I think we should throw shame onto is this greater community of online influencers. Most of them, oddly enough, because I've seen them on some of my Twitter back when I was into gaming. I still follow some of my favorite online gaming personalities. And a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them, when the crypto coin boom started a few months ago, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I'd never seen them tweet about crypto.
Everyone became an expert.
Yeah, they all became, and you go and look at all their bios now, and they have this pretend legal defense screen on that says, quote, not financial advice. Yeah, not a financial advisor.
Yeah, like that's gonna fucking stop anybody.
That's the shield.
Your Honor, in the tweet, I did write this is not financial advice.
I gave out tons of financial advice to easily duped young people online. So I think there is a greater shame going on here, not just within Faze Clan and Rice Gum and Faze K, these few influencers, but everybody online that has decided overnight that they see the quick and easy money that could possibly lie in cryptocurrency, all of a sudden becoming experts on the subject, going from essentially laymen, having no idea how it works or anything about it to go into... I
still don't know how it works.
Yeah, well, basically becoming overnight experts with overnight and then peddling this stuff online. Peddling this, what is, in most cases, none of these coins are going to amount to anything. Bitcoin is leading the charge and will probably remain the largest competitor after or next to Ethereum. But other than that, none of these coins are really going to do anything. They're not going to make you rich. It's all just a way for people to make quick money by duping you. They dupe you. They dupe people online, and it's just about exploiting the system. None of this is going to become
the thing that's gross more so about that is like, yeah, they're exploiting the system, but more importantly, they're exploiting their fucking fans. Like the people who are like, hey, I like Rice Gum, which if you do, you need to rethink some things. But you follow any of these guys, you like them. These young kids, like you said, most of them, their followers are these young kids, and to exploit them like that, and the payday. Talk about the payday. The payday, like, they can't give an exact number, but in the video they said I watched. They said it was around $30,000 to about $40,000, just to show your ass that much, and it basically put yourself at risk for. I mean, it's still a lot of money, but for these people, like you said, who are like flaunting, like, oh, I'm wealthy, I'm on my jet, I'm driving a Lambo, whatever.
I'm sure working for Faze Clan is a lot more lucrative than just a quick $30,000.
Right, but I think it speaks to like a greater thing, is that like it's never enough money.
Well, being an influencer is a straight up hustle. Let's be honest.
It's a grift.
It's all about getting quick money, quick and easy money through the internet. Using the internet to exploit people, young people most of the time. It's who most influencers are targeted at. Using that as a way as a hustle to get quick and easy cash. And I think that these guys just got a little greedy. They got a little ahead of themselves and thought they could get away with it. So a lot of this,
man, isn't that American? Isn't that American?
A lot of this is alleged. Faze K and Rice Gum all deny that they knew that this was what it was.
Of course
Faze K said something along the lines of, I had no ill intent in promoting these crypto altcoins. I was naive and I thought we all had a chance to make money. I didn't know, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't know what's going on. I just was trying to help. I don't
remember.
They're just playing dumb. You know what you were doing. You knew from the start. Don't play so dumb.
You fucking got caught.
Yeah.
You got caught.
But allegedly, they're all going to sit there and pretend like they're just, trying to get everybody rich. We know that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
But I think what would be best for society as a whole is if basically we didn't have influencers at all.
Yeah, but celebrity is like, it's,
When was the last time like a movie star was trying? I guess they do peddle things, but like when was the last time a movie star was trying to peddle you some weird like alternative currency?
It's okay. Maybe not that, but. If you look abroad, you will find like famous movie actors, like even Leo. Mm-hmm. Leo, all right, that's who we're talking about here. Like he did like a whole series of commercials in Japan for a credit card.
Well, again, with influencers, like we mentioned, but they're
like a bastardized version of that.
Yeah, exactly, and like they don't offer a lot in terms of like
nothing of substance.
Yeah, like at least with a good actor or a good musician, you can say that there is value that they produce in the art they create. So much of these influencers, it's meaningless content, boring. I mean, maybe it's not boring in the moment, but it's forgettable. It's meaningless. It holds very little value. It's all about the quick views, the quick bucks, and just getting as many followers as you can, and just hoping that you can exploit your fan base, be it through the accepted way, which is just garnering tons of sponsorships, or the more shady way, and in selling the new hustle, cryptocurrency and altcoins.
You better not jeopardize my G Fuel sponsorship.
Oh, we right. G Fuel sponsorship incoming, baby.
Listen. I have the G Fuel butt plug slow drip, all right, and
it's in right now.
It's in right now, and it gives me a nice slow release of G Fuel right into the system.
So basically, what we're saying is buy our new Bosco coin that is about to go onto the market. It's going to charity. It's going to charity. The charity being Bosco's wallet.
Bosco's wallet.
To add to his vinyl collection.
Yeah.
And, so it's a good cause, and you can buy the coin, and we'll go to the moon together. We'll ride the rocket ship to the moon.
Yeah.
Just post those emojis. Keep posting them. Keep retweeting. Keep believing.
Or if you just want to send money straight to my Cash App, it's Bosco at 6969. All right, you wanna talk about the other thing you brought today?
Okay, the final segment of the show, the conspiracy theory / mystery / oddity of the week. Do you have a little intro for that?
Where we're going, we won't need roads.
All right, I like that. So this one this week, since we'll want to keep this segment a little bit varied. Earlier this week, I was browsing TikTok, and I came across video of a alleged time traveler, a guy claiming to be from 3036, and in doing my research, I later found that that these clips were from a semi-fictional documentary, I'm gonna assume, of the man from the future, visions from 3036, something like that, in which this guy says, I've traveled from 3036, no reason given, and he has basically apocalyptic predictions of the future.
Man, he chose 2021.
To come back to give apocalyptic predictions about 3036. But it opened up what I found was a whole trend, a whole subcategory, genre, if you want to call it that, on TikTok of alleged time travelers. One user I found who goes by the name Javier claims to be from not so distant future of 2027, where he claims he is the sole surviving member of the human race. No humans are left on the planet.
He booked it for the nearest time travel station, and he just was like, I gotta make it. I'm the last one.
So basically, in the next 6 years, we'll have time travel, and also the entire human race will go extinct, according to Javier. And he's on a journey to find any remaining person.
Well, thank
God
for Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, because then we'll get to space.
So, unfortunately for Javier, by the time I came across his videos, it seemed that he had been already debunked, because he had made a prediction for early May of this year, saying that scientists on Earth would discover a Earth-like planet somewhere in our solar system. I'm guessing similar to the old early 2000s Nibiru-like planet, something along those lines. Obviously, early May came and went. No discovery of such happened, unless you really believe that it did happen and they're hiding it, perhaps. And then he goes on to make a few other apocalyptic predictions that would take place over the course of the next 6 years, ranging from massive earthquakes to mass power outages to potential nuclear war.
Well, there has been actually a lot of power outages in Texas.
Well, power outages are bound to happen. Yeah. There is another one, a more popular time traveler on TikTok that goes by the very creative username Authentic Time Traveler.
Oh, see, you know what? The other guy, I wasn't feeling Javier, but this guy, he's authentic.
Well, Authentic Time Traveler says he's from 25.
Wait, does he have a blue check mark?
I wasn't paying that close of attention, to be honest. But he claims he's from 25.
I just want to know how official he is, okay? I'm just asking, all right? I want to know his credentials.
He's very
I want to know. Look. I need credibility in my time travelers, because you're coming at me with a real wacky theory, all right?
Look, either
you need at least an authentic check mark, all right?
Well, I would say that maybe take all these time travelers with a grain of salt, but perhaps not.
No.
Authentic Time Traveler claims he's from 2582. Again, he goes into making bold, apocalyptic predictions about future cataclysmic events that will take place in the near future. So I find this interesting because the theme of a alleged time traveler coming to our time to tell us of some upcoming devastating apocalyptic-like event is nothing new. This isn't a new phenomenon on TikTok. This has happened before. And it's always interesting, these time travelers come on, they make... I feel like they're a little preemptive with their assumptions. I feel like they would do themselves a little bit better justice to put some of their predictions really far out there, so past anyone who's living, because then the time comes and goes and you're like, okay, nothing happened, that guy was full of shit. But to leave people, to put it 100, 200, 500 years in the future, it could leave everybody guessing for at least the next 500 years.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's you've even seen it in movies. I think we've passed the year in Blade Runner.
Have we?
I think we have, yeah.
I thought it was 2049 or something.
No, that's the sequel.
Oh, that's the new one.
That's the sequel. No, in Blade Runner, I think it was 2015, I think.
Well, that's a movie. At the end of the day, these are fun things to engage with, maybe. And maybe, there's some merit to the predictions in just saying, hey, the world could be poised for some type of environmental disaster or some type of economic or global collapse of some kind. Stuff like that's possible, so maybe people use this as a tool to just kind of hey, check yourselves. It's a hoax, but people are maybe coming at it with a grain of truth to say, hey, possibly something bad could happen if we don't readjust our current trajectory in the world. When I found these time travelers on TikTok, it reminded me of a famous one, perhaps the most famous alleged time traveler. He went by the name John Titor. John Titor? I don't know how to pronounce it. He originally gained traction through the old radio show Coast to Coast.
Legend.
But the John Titor story is pretty fascinating and is perhaps the most famous example of a time traveler coming into quote-unquote current times to make some apocalyptic predictions about the near future and say, hey, we need to change our ways or else, we're headed towards disaster. So Titor originally appeared on a bulletin-style online forum in the early 2000s, in the year 2000. He originally did not title himself John Titor. He just went by Time Traveler, literally the name Time Traveler.
Time God. My name is Time God.
Kronos the Magnificent.
Kronos. We are Legion.
And he was posting to a message board that was dedicated to time traveling and kind of made an allusion or brought up that he was familiar with time travel technology, obviously to spark the interest of a bunch of nerds hanging out on a time travel forum being like, wait a second, you're aware of time travel technology?
the people who hang out in a time travel forum, man, I would like to do... In the early 2000s?
In 2000. Late 90s,
I would love to see how those guys turned out. They're
well... John Titor would bring his claims to Art Bell's message board, where he would take on the moniker of John Titor.
Sorry, just real quick, the beauty of Art Bell, that the one thing I love about him is that someone would always come at him with some crazy explanation, and what I'll think of example, he's like, all right, so you're a werewolf, so what's that like? What's going on, right? He yes ands them into their madness, and you know what? But he's a polite guy.
Well, yeah, it's how you get the fun out of it.
Yeah, that's why his show is so brilliant.
Yeah, it's not necessarily stuff to be taken necessarily seriously.
No,
it's just almost for the fun of it and the art of it. I'll get back to that though. But basically, John Titor claimed he was a member of the U.S. military. And he was sent back in the year 2036, sent back on a government military-based mission. And he was actually not supposed to be stopping in the year 2000.
Dun, 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 dun.
He was supposed to be going to 1975. But he had stopped in 2000 for personal reasons. His personal reasons being that because the world had been destroyed in his time, he wanted to come back to talk to family members and to gather personal family relics and photos that he had.
You want to come? You're gonna time travel and come back and see your family.
He came back for sentimental reasons. Because they had been destroyed in the upcoming nuclear war that obviously never transpired.
Yeah, I think if I'm time traveling back, I think there's bigger fish to fry than to see what my family's up to.
But okay, listen to this. His mission assigned him by the government as he took his little detour on his very, very important military journey mission was his assignment was to go to 1975 to retrieve an IBM computer that was necessary for the government because they were having some type of legacy-based issues with their computers, and they needed this computer from 1975, this IBM computer, in order to, like, reboot their systems or something in some way. The one interesting thing in this story is that John Titor had revealed specifics about this computer that was not public knowledge. So this is the one thing that he had that led credence to him. A lot of people would later assume that the guy that made this story was a computer expert of some kind, and that's how he knew this information. But he did provide some details that was not common knowledge, which is the one interesting thing about his claim. So John Titor goes on to warn of a disease that spreads through beef products and a civil war erupting in the U.S. that begins in the year 2004. So obviously you guys remember the Great Civil War of 2004.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting
We're
enough,
refugees of that war.
He said that this civil war began over a dispute about the 2004 presidential election that led to civil unrest and eventually a civil war. That the results of the 2004 presidential election, were in dispute, leading to civil unrest and eventually to a civil war.
That never happened. Civil unrest? No way.
So
what's next? You gonna tell me that some jagoffs are gonna go and storm the Capitol now?
So, he would say that this civil unrest would lead to a civil war, which would also become a nuclear war within America. It's unclear if it was within just contained to America or that it was a worldwide civil war. But he said basically at this point, most of the U.S. major cities have been destroyed, including Washington, D.C., and the new U.S. capital is in Omaha. So...
Omaha?
Yeah, well, Omaha wasn't destroyed.
If global warming's happening, I guess Omaha could have some beachfront property.
Some details Titor provided about his time machine was, he, quote, called it a stationary mass temporal displacement unit powered by two top-spin dual positive singularities. Whatever that means.
No, this is starting to make a lot more sense now.
John Titor also claimed that his device was installed onto a back of a 1966 Corvette. And that
the man's got style. The man's got style.
His 1966 Corvette is essentially his time machine. I wonder where he got that from, a time traveling car.
I mean, look, let's be honest. That car sounds way more bitchin' than the fucking DeLorean. A car literally made by a fucking maniac.
So...
you know about that whole story, right? The whole story of John DeLorean. I won't get into it, but it's a very interesting story. You should definitely look it up. That guy was a nut job. Anyway, go on.
So, that's about the extent of most of John Titor's claims. He would go silent after 2001, 2002. Obviously, 2004 would come and go. No civil war erupted. No mass disease spread, unless he was off by a little bit. But anyways,
I have no idea what you're referencing.
Most of his predictions would not come true. But in a little bit of a contingency plan, Titor... I don't know if this was Titor himself that claimed this, or that believers of John Titor's story put forward this theory, but they said that John Titor or others would claim that that the reason his predictions, as kind of a failsafe to his predictions not coming through, was that either the technology John Titor used made him not only a time traveler, but a universe traveler. That he was actually from a different universe that was a parallel universe where he had been, through his time travel technology, hadn't traveled back in time in his own universe, but had shifted universe through some quantum mechanics. He quantum shifted. They call it the many worlds in interpretational theory. That also he claimed that because he was back in time, that the way the multiverse works is a series of branching paths, and that because he had gone back in time, butterfly effect style, and that he had alerted this to us, it shifted our universe onto a different path, one that John Titor was not from. Maybe he was from our original universe, the one that he time traveled back in, but when he came back and made these claims, his actions, his things he said, his claims, shifted our universe onto a different trajectory, different than the one he was from. And therefore, his predictions never came true because him voicing these predictions shifted our universe onto a different timeline where that is not the reality. But perhaps John Titor was telling us the truth. And through this action, maybe he really was, the government knew this, and they sent him back to shift our universe onto a different maybe he didn't know, or maybe, maybe this was his goal all along, was in making these claims and making these predictions, he shifted our universe onto a different trajectory through the many worlds hypothesis.
I'm gonna posit my theory. Mm-hmm. I think this guy's a weirdo.
He's a weirdo. So basically, he went dark. Predictions didn't come true. There's been some theories about who he was, a private investigator. In believe it was 2009, a private investigator hired by an Italian documentary company who was making a story about John Titor.
Meatballs. Sorry.
Hired a private investigator who claimed that he discovered evidence that this was a hoax, a story created by two brothers. One brother was a computers expert and worked in computer and information technology. The other brother was a lawyer for the entertainment industry.
I was gonna say this shit screams a fucking actor.
Yeah,
dude.
And so that this lawyer / entertainment lawyer and his computer science brother, who had a little bit, which could explain for John Titor having computer knowledge that isn't exactly privy to most people, as some esoteric knowledge about computers, could explain that, and
also they're dorks, probably.
Basically this was done as kind of, not necessarily a hoax to mess with people, but as kind of like a little bit of a literary skit that they were doing. It was kind of like, almost like an art piece in a way.
Like the War of the Worlds broadcast.
Yeah, it was like they were doing some kind of art piece in order to, I don't know, just raise up a fun little online discussion, in the early 2000s. Who knows? The fact of the matter is, John Titor probably wasn't a time traveler. It was most likely a story.
No.
But it makes me think, and all these TikToks, going back to the topic at hand, all these TikToks, it's just kids having fun. Nobody's really a backwards time traveler. So here's where I want to discuss what I actually believe about time travel in terms of conspiracy theory. So I don't think anybody's traveling back in time and coming back and making predictions or telling us what's going to happen, because that I don't believe is possible. And if you've ever seen the famous Futurama episode where
Futurama.
So there's a famous one where Professor Farnsworth makes a time machine, and he brings Fry and Bender onto the time machine, and they're like, oh, so we can go backwards, and he explains, actually no, backwards time travel is impossible. What is possible is forwards time travel. And actually, I don't know this for sure, I'm a layman in the subject, but many physicists agree and believe that time travel is possible, but it's not possible to go backwards. It's only possible to go forward in time. In fact, I don't have a good understanding of it, but being in space, traveling long distances, think Interstellar, can accelerate time on Earth, but you don't experience time relative to Earth. It's like your experience of time changes. So Earth ages, you don't, or you age slower than they do on Earth, as Interstellar. Mm-hmm. So where I don't believe time travel is possible to go backwards, I don't believe because if it was, we would have seen time travelers by now, right? Right? There would have been a guy. If it was possible, it would have happened for real, and they wouldn't have gone on TikTok or some backwater message board to reveal their truth, right? I feel like they would have a little bit more of an effort. They'd put in a little bit more of an effort. They'd be screaming Bloody Mary on the streets, trying to get on CNN.
I think the most important thing to think about with this is that we're dealing with high-level dorks, all right?
So do you think it's possible to quantum shift into another universe and time travel in that way?
Actually,
John Titor style? Because if there is one way that John Titor's true, it's that he not only time traveled, but shifted universes.
Well, okay, so, like, along quantum shifting, that line, what's interesting is that, I've heard, like, many stories on, like, r/glitch in the Matrix of, like, people describing, like, they, like, could have sworn that they, like, had committed suicide, and then basically they don't even notice it, and, like, I remember there's one guy who described, he said that he remembers, like, pulling the trigger on the gun in his mouth, committing suicide, and then he woke up, and then he was, like, about to do it. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess, but, like, I don't know, man. I mean, that just, man, we really sit here talking about time travel, but all right. I don't know. I think it's a sexy idea. That's the reason why a lot of movies have been made off of the idea of time travel. There's just something sexy about it. I think there's also an aspect of people who wish they could go back in time for what's the word I'm looking for? Nostalgia reasons. Sentimental reasons, right? Maybe reliving, past events, like, childhood, whatnot.
You want to go see your grandma when she was a young lady? Grandma, it's me, your future grandson.
Yeah.
What would you do if you time traveled?
I would... that's interesting. I don't know. I think it would be interesting to see something in the past, like, if it is possible to time travel into the past. But if we're going to the future, yeah, sure. I would be curious to go, like, 100 years, see what happens.
But you can't go back. You go into the future, you can't come back. That's the thing with forward time travel. You can only move forward. There's no backwards movement.
All right, give me, like, 50 years.
50 years? That means most of the people you know now will either be really old or dead.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Nice. I'll be dead. You can finally be free of me.
Yeah.
So
I will finally have.
That's your plan.
I've finally
to get away.
Gotten rid of you. All right. Well, that was very interesting. I was actually very entertained hearing that. Yeah.
Good.
I do think it's funny when like weird like phenomena like this come back, and you know what I think it is, Zach? I ultimately think it is. I think it's a sign that we're all healing as a nation.
Perhaps.
Yeah, bring back silly goofiness like this.
I think it is silly goofiness, and I think all of it is in good fun. I think it's a fun concept to play with, and I would say that there is a little bit of a kernel of truth in all this, because people make apocalyptic predictions, but a lot of it is not out of the realm of possibility, be it nuclear war or
except that Harold Camping dude, the one dude who was like trying to
cataclysmic environmental.
Remember that dude? Thing? He was. I'm sorry.
A cataclysmic environmental event happening, or nuclear war, or let's say accelerated climate change.
Right.
I think it is interesting to think that maybe these people, through these stories, which are essentially hoaxes and stories, and through this time-traveling story they're weaving, is trying to maybe warn... They live in this time, they're one of us, but they're trying to warn us of what they think could happen. They're making predictions themselves about where the direction they see the world headed, and they hope to maybe spark some type of at least discussion about it through this time traveling story. So that's what I see it most of this as, including the John Titor story, including a lot of these TikTokers, is people with genuine concern about the future, trying to
that's interesting you put it that way. I definitely see that. I like, you know, they're you know, like, you know, take for example, like, you know, what I was talking about, like, about the environment with the Exxon Mobil story, like, you know, if I was really passionate, I could come back and be like, we gotta get rid of all the gas companies, you know, or else they're gonna ruin the environment. You know, it could be a way of, you know, someone's silly way of trying to basically, you know, like, try to change something in their present. That's a very, like, that's very interesting.
So if you have a concern about the future and you want people to take notice, pretend to be a time traveler on TikTok.
Yeah,
that's our advice for today, I think.
Yeah, you can be whatever you want on TikTok.
All right, you want to wrap this one up?
Yeah, I think we're good. All right, man. Well, that's going to do it for this week. We're out of here. Peace.
Thanks for listening.